All right, the idea here is to get the problem down, give it a shot, and hit pause if you need to. Actually hit pause, try it, and then watch whatever you need to if you get stuck, or if you finish it up, go ahead and hit play and make sure that your steps line up with what I did. Make sure your answer comes out to the same thing as what I got. So right here we almost have a trinomial, but this has to equal 0. So that means we'll have to subtract 12 on both sides before we start, which makes it negative 12 over here. All right, now you're going to try to factor, so if you see a common factor among all three terms here, definitely take it out. That will make your job easier. Doesn't look like that's going to happen, so we're going to have to take the 4 and the negative 12, multiply them, and break it down from there. All right, now negative 48, if you don't know right off which two factors add to make negative 13, start with 1 and match up what would have to go with that. They do have to be negative to multiply to make negative 48. If that doesn't add up, because that's negative 47, so we'll try 2. 2 and negative 24. Well, that adds to make negative 22, so that doesn't work either. Let's try 3. 3 goes into 48 16 times. All right, use a calculator to get these if you need to, and that's going to do it. That gives us negative 13x. Okay? Now, I'll rework this with the x method in just a second. So if you like the x, doing it this way, then I guess I would recommend just skip ahead. I'll finish it up with the t-chart, and then I'll come back and talk about how to use the x method. So if we go back to the t-chart here, we're going to break up the middle term into these two factors. So a plus 3x minus 16x, bring down the negative 12. Then you have to factor by groups. So 4x squared plus 3x is in a group, minus the 16x minus 12. And I'm not going to put parentheses here because I know they go together, and it's just going to get confusing trying to keep up with that negative. So these have an x in common. That's it. 4x plus 3 is what's left. These have a negative and a 4 in common. So 4x would be left, plus 3. Now, if you're having trouble with the plus, distribute back out. Negative 16x, negative 12. Okay? The thing that's shared is one factor, and the other one is x minus 4. Okay? Now, I made a big deal about this the other lesson, so you do need to make sure it's equal to 0 all the way down, because we are solving. So 4x plus 3 equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. This side takes slightly more work, but it comes out to be negative 3/4. This one equals 4. Now, as far as the x method, for those of you that prefer this method, it's going to go a little bit quicker. From this step, you would get to here, multiplying 4, negative 12, putting negative 13 on the bottom. You can use the t-chart to come up with the two numbers to put on the sides. So we already know it's 3 and negative 16. You can do the same thing here to get those two numbers. Now, since we had this 4 out front, remember to divide both of these by 4. Here's where the x method's a little bit different. 3/4, of course, cannot be reduced, but 16 over 4 can. So 3/4, negative 4, come down. X minus 3/4 is one factor. X minus 4 is the other. And this is actually probably better. I would recommend this method for solving, because at this point, set each one equal to 0 separately, and that's pretty much done. So 2 ways to get the same answer. Whoops. I see a mistake. This was positive. I made it negative. If you caught that, good job. Let's go ahead and make sure we carry that all the way down. And we got the same answer each time now, so we know we're right. So this should be a negative 3/4, positive 4. Two methods, either one works. All right, another example. This one will be much quicker. You still need to get everything on the same side. equal to 0. Just get in the habit of doing that every single time. Now you need to recognize you have a difference of squares. Once you've gotten that far, set each one equal to 0. You're going to get x equals 7, x equals negative 7. It does equal both parts. Remember, if this is a parabola, then that means there's two answers, one at negative 7, one at positive 7. Okay, we will eventually put these on graphs. That's where we're heading. We want to focus on doing the math first, though. All right, and the last thing is working backwards. Write an equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And again, back to the first problem, that's exactly what we had right here. That's ax squared, bx, and c. So don't let the terminology fool you. So write it in that form for a polynomial with the given roots. Well, we got 1/3 and 2. Well, remember yesterday, or no, probably not yesterday, the last lesson, roots are the same thing as solutions, which is the same thing as 0, which all are the same thing as an x-intercept. So these words get used interchangeably in math, especially on the SOL. Don't know why, but just the way it works out. So if these two things are roots, that means they are also x-intercepts, which means x equals those two numbers. Okay? Now this process is the exact opposite of what you were doing in the last two. You know two roots. You know x equals these things. You can turn them into factors by setting them equal to 0. All I did was subtract 1/3, subtract 2. Still two separate things right now, two separate equations, but because they're both equal to 0, we can put them together in one equation. Now, because it's a fraction, you will need to pull this 3 out front. That's the way we want to think about it. So 3x minus 1 and x minus 2. Now, make sure it's equal to 0. If it wasn't a fraction, then it'd be a lot simpler, but you do FOIL from here. If it's not a fraction, then you get to the FOIL step a little bit faster, but you still FOIL. So first, 3x squared, outside negative 6x, inside minus x, and last, plus 2. And if you can combine like terms, you have to do that. So we do have some like terms. 3x squared stays. That becomes negative 7x. They combine. Plus 2 stays. Equals 0. And that's it. We've got it in the right form. That's a. That's an x squared. There's a b. That's an x. And there's a c. And you can think of this minus as a plus negative 7 if you want. But it checks out. That's the form. It works. So again, watch this as much as you need to. Give them a shot. And if you still need some more practice, let me know.